You're listening to the Devil Dog Talk Show.
This show contains explicit material and is recommended for ages 18 and older for mature audiences only. But hey, it's the internet.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Devil Dog Talk Show. Today we are excited to bring Don Meyerriecks. I nailed it because I cheated and I broke it down into simple words.
Great job, and delighted to be here. Thanks.
Thank you for coaching me through your last name. I feel so much more confident today.
If that's the toughest part of this conversation, we're in great shape. So,
Oh no, it is. That was it. I was all. Hey, I looked up all your history, all that stuff, but the last name was just like, right?
Yep.
But no,
Yep.
Meyerriecks. Thank you. Now I can nail it. I thought it's so good.
Yeah, good.
Perfect. So Don, welcome to the Devil Doc Talk Show. Thank you for coming on today. And I really want to kind of turn it over to you to kind of introduce yourself to our audience about how did you get started, number one, into technology?
Yeah. Let's see. So I was quite a good musician in high school. So take that as you see it, right? I don't know how great a musician you are in high school, but I was going to be a piano major, and I thought about that. And in my generation, it was like, what does that mean? I'm going to be like the choral instructor for my local high school. Not sure I wanted to do that. So my dad was an electrical engineer, and he did early programming. So he worked on the early Gemini programs, and he worked on early Craze, this all geeky stuff for the geeks out there in the crowd. But it was really, really interesting to me. So I decided electrical engineering, why the heck not? So I got a scholarship for my undergrad, and the rest is history. I loved it. I reveled in it, and I got to keep my music piece going kind of on the side. It's still a respite for me, but I found out that I love building things for people that matter, and that drew me then eventually into the service component that you see reflected in my career.
That is beautiful. I do want to talk more about music, in fact, because I feel like you spoke to a heart of mine that I haven't had fluttered since I was in middle school. For real. I was second chair drum band, second chair jazz band trombone. And so when you
trombone,
right? It's the bass. It makes everybody have fun. And people don't think about that, right? And I go, no, that's the reason why when I got a bass, recently I got a bass, and I just been really leaning into it. I couldn't tell you what the notes are that I'm hitting. But I just use it for hand therapy. I have a special finger and whatnot going on. And so I really focus on for both mind and hand coordination. And you nailed it when you go, hey, I still, do this music stuff for respite. I'm like, hey, I love that you do that. So when you were doing music as a young kid, all right, was that something that your parents, I don't want to say forced, because now today's day and age, people will say words like, well, my parents forced me, like with a whip. It's like, no. They just heavily influenced me, right? Was that your situation, or did you fall in love with music?
I fell in love with music. My parents both played piano, which is the instrument that I started with and that I still enjoy, and just loved. I mean, I'm from a generation they listen to old LPs all the time, and Rosemary Clooney. That was what they listened to, right? And they played, and my dad played, actually, very unusual for his generation. My dad actually played a lot more than my mom did. And of course, I thought my dad hung the moon. So when they said, hey, do you want to take piano lessons? Because I would sit with them. I would just sit there and like listen to him and watch him play. And they said, hey, do you want to take piano lessons? And I was all over it. So my mom will say that she had to encourage me at times to practice, but I really enjoyed it, and I was pretty good about being self-disciplined about it. And then once you get to the point where it's fun and you're making great music, or you think you're making great music, then it kind of is this perfect wheel, right? And it just, now you're really into it. So I ended up, actually, the reason I was going to do undergrad is I was taking lessons from the head of the piano department at my university. And she was of a heritage that they didn't praise. And so when I told her I was going to be an electrical engineer, she was like, oh, you were one of my most promising students. Well, until that moment, I thought I was just, short of mediocre. But I love music. I still love music. I still play. And it is something that it just brings me joy.
That is beautiful. Now, what type of piano do you play now? Is it an electronic, or is it Maybe.
No, I actually, years and years ago, before I actually had sense or very much money, got a grand Kawai piano. So it is mellowed now. It's probably, I'm trying to think how old it is now. It's probably 40 years old now and it's been played a lot. And so when I have it tuned now, people will come in and they'll open it up and just say, this is a beautiful instrument, because part of an instrument's sound is using it, right? I mean, it kind of mellows if it's used. And people that come and tune it now will just say, do you mind if I just stay and play the piano for a little while? So they crank it up, they crank the top up and just go for it. And I love that too. It's like it brings other people joy. So my family, very often we do holidays. We were just talking about that, and everybody's kind of got a musical instrument, and we'll sit around and sing and play, and it's just a really awesome experience. I love it.
See, that's the kind of stuff I love talking about. I did not expect this so far this morning. It was a family and music and gathering. Oh, it's everything I love. When we moved into
Me
this
too.
house, it's right? It's the beautiful most best parts of life, right?
Yes.
We'll get to the career stuff, guys. Chill out. We're talking. But the piano, we moved into this house out here in Valley Center, California, and they had I guess they call it a stand-up piano where the back is up more.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
older. We don't play it. I don't get it tuned, but every now and again the kids will mess with it. I use electronic devices like MPCs and MIDIs and stuff like that. But one of the most beautiful things that I love is exactly what you said, is when people come over and play with your instrument. Like it's like kind of going to a garden, and you have all the fresh
Yeah.
fruit, and then you make like a nice smoothie for people that come over. They're like, "Oh my God, this is the best kiwi I've ever had." Right? And you're like, "Yeah, I did it."
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. It's sharing that with somebody else who actually appreciates the instrument itself, right? And you think about it as a piano, you don't think about that for a grand piano, but even the tuners are like that. That's fun. Come play my instrument. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think having a tuner actually want to sit down and stay at a spot, it's like I know too many people in studios, right, where it's just like they got their line, everything's set up. Like I never thought about business this much than I have in this past 2 years, but it's like, dude, no, even pool cleaners have these type of back to back to back to back to back to back to back. And when you meet people that come in, I have a great friend here in Valley Center, has a gorgeous studio, DBU Ranch Studios, or DBU Ranch Recorders, and Dusk Bennett, amazing man. I don't know what size his piano is, but he has two gorgeous pianos. He actually has multiple. He has like so many pianos in the studio. I can't even. I call it DBU Ranch Daze, DAZE, because every time I go in there, not to get off track about pianos. Have you ever heard of a plate reverb?
Yes, I've heard of it.
Okay.
Never
So
used
in
one.
Perfect. This is giving me more opportunity to talk about it then. Um, Plate reverbs. I knew that it's in the DAWs, the digital audio workstations that we have into our computers and stuff now for audio engineering. But there was actually a physical plate reverb that was created, and this is where the whole plate reverb comes from. And he bought one that needs a full room the size of my control room. It's huge.
Wow.
And it's nothing but a big sheet of metal with a vibrator and two different coils, and like they're two different pans, and then a Telefunken tube amp that's embedded into the bass. And I just about dropped. I'm like, no way. Couldn't believe it, right? And he uses it for the amazing piano, back on track with pianos, and they do amazing music where it's just like, wow, I didn't know music could sound like that. And I think that's
Yeah.
the thing that you get with those type of pianos that you got
Yeah.
there is like,
You can feel it.
mm-hmm.
Like you can, it's not just hearing it, you actually feel it. You feel the waves. It's amazing. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I think that segues right into technology, because I think we're going to have the same reasons of why we like technology now too. It's so awesome because, all right, when you're now then you're a young person growing up, you now converted from, musical, and you had great prospects there. What was it that really swayed you into technology?
I think it really was. I always had this sense that I wanted to build things that actually benefited people some way, right? And medicine didn't seem like the thing for me. I'm fine in crisis situations, but it didn't seem like something that I wanted to, I didn't feel called to that. But building things, my dad got me an erector set when I was 7. It's to this day is my favorite birthday present ever. So building something, right? Actually having something take form that was creative, that came out of my head, right? And wasn't just a plan that was handed to me. That was it hit all of the chords for me, to use the musical analogy. And so when I graduated and had the opportunity to go work with the technology, I wanted to do it in pursuit of service to some higher cause. So I ended up at the time at TRW, now part of Northrop Grumman, but in Redondo Beach, California, because of course that was where you want to go when you're 21. So lived on the beach. 19 of us started, and it's been a great career. I got to build. So to be really geeky, like we installed the first local area network at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And remember when they measured bend radius because the copper was like this big around?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was measured in like 2.5 feet. That was the kind of copper we were laying. Yeah. So, but it was like I could see the implications of that pretty much right away, right? Like, here's how this is going to be a game changer. And it just took off from there. And I have loved every minute. I've gotten to work with great teams and just and open to lots of opportunities. I switched jobs a lot. Actually, when I interviewed with John Brennan for the CIA job, that was his first question. He says, "I'm looking at your resume. It looks like you can't hold a job." And I laughed out loud because, well, he was trying to, discomfort me. And I laughed out loud because I was like, I say that about myself, because if I'm not doing something interesting with a great team that I think is moving the needle, I get bored. So, he hired me for the job and proceeded to have a great relationship there. But yeah, it's always been about, great teams, great technology that makes a difference.
The great outcomes. I love that. You brought up Redondo Beach. It's another favorite spot of mine. Jay Leno goes out there a lot too. There's a comedy spot just down the road, one of these small restaurants. It's got like 2 stories. I can't remember. It's on the south side or north side of Redondo. So Palos Verdes is right here, and then you come through and you got the pier and everything, and it's just a gorgeous spot, And when you mentioned it, I'm like, you're right. People do like being there. I liked being there. What was your time like in Redondo Beach that really kind of formulated this, I want to say not necessarily personality, but this mindset of need to have an outcome-based career?
Yeah, I think I had the opportunity. I got to work really early in my career with this great team that was building military computer family computers. And they were, it was before, it sounds terrible, but it was before Intel, and everybody kind of had like formulaic, right? The whole ecosystem around their product lines. And so the military was building their own using a specific technology that I'd actually worked with when I was doing my undergraduate work. And so it was a great fit. And I did something like I built the memory system, really boring stuff if you're in computer science, but important. Yes. But I was very young. So it was like, that was the thing they trusted me with. But I worked with this great team, and we actually built something that we saw deployed. And there is nothing like that on the planet. And so, eventually, and I'm jumping around my career a lot here, but eventually I got to put a command and control system onto the USS Abe Lincoln. It actually went into the entire naval fleet. But I made a bet with my 1-star that I worked for at the time that I could get operationally effective declared first time. And his payoff was I got to do the VIP tour on an aircraft carrier. And
Oh, wow.
we did it. So I got to VIP the USS Abe Lincoln when they were doing workups off the coast of Seattle, actually getting ready to go do, I think it was Desert Storm 1. And it was just, I was standing there on the flight deck, of course, because they're doing touch and goes with the air wing. And I was thinking like like kid from Pittsburgh, who would have thought, right? I was just amazing. And I could have stood there all afternoon, but everybody around me was freezing their butts off. So I was like, in kindness, I said, okay, let's do one more. I'll watch one more and then we can go inside. And they were like, thank God I'm freezing. But I just love things like that. Yeah, I love.
See, but that's the most beautiful, I think, passionate way to talk about people's lives, because we're not compartmentalized apparatus or whatever the word for multiple apparatus, right? We are human beings, right? So that's
Yeah.
the thing I love about it. You can really see where you lit up right now. You're like, dude, I gotta go on a carrier, and these planes are going boop, boop, this says boop, boop, right? And that's insane.
It is insane.
I want,
Highly recommend.
yes, if you can, go around and jump on a boat, go do it, right?
No kidding.
I remember one beautiful time where I grew up in Lemoore. Okay, so Lemoore was NAF Lemoore, or whatever they're called, and they had the huge F-18 wing come home from Iraq,
Oh man.
and it's like, I want to say 30 planes, no joke, coming over the town of Lemoore, just
Goosebumps. You're giving me goosebumps here.
it was insane. And then when I started working, of course, in the military, when I was actually in the military, actually in NJROTC was the first time I did a flight line fire control. Bam, I'm putting out a F-18. Yeah. Go up low, go up high, go up low, go up. All right, we put the fire out. Yay, we did it. They just shut off the propane. That's training.
Yes, right. Yeah. I mean, it's that feeling of like, we can do this. And more than that, it's just like the engineering just to make those things work. I mean, I'm just in awe of, what people are capable of creating left to their own devices, right?
Yeah.
Just amazing. Yeah.
And you had this huge literal input to what we're even using right now, right?
Yeah.
This apparatus, I like it. It's not my favorite. Okay, like StreamYard's okay. I could never figure out Riverside. I tried for a year trying to figure that thing out. But I love this. I love being able to talk to people and communicate. And me and my wife were talking about dial-up to ArcChain last night, right? And I showed them the noise, and my kids go, "Oh, why do you have to hear that all the time?" I'm like, "Well, no, that's not okay, kids. Listen, let me show you. You got to first you had to dial it up, and then it would click, and then I even had them watch the actual interface where they go, and they're actually talking in their computer languages." And my son, he's big into robotics, and they're big into programming, so it really kind of made me get super excited for this episode with you, because I see it in their eyes, the exact, I'm building something, right? The Erecta set. My kids have like a kind of the same deal with plastic, right?
Yeah.
And different pneumatic motors, electronic motors. They haven't gotten to hydraulic motors yet, but that would be great. We could put it in a Camaro or something, just hop it around town, right?
And I know where Valley Center is, so it would fit there.
Yeah, it really would. Like that. So that's the thing about the area, is like there's so many opportunities here in California. My kid wants to go to Caltech, and I'm like, hey,
That's awesome.
yeah, it is, until you ask me.
Look at the price tag.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't have to put myself out like that. All right, thanks, Don. Yeah.
Well, I worked for JPL for a while, which is, Caltech runs it. So yes.
That's awesome. That's really awesome to know, because I'll tell you what, you can use me as a guinea pig for stuff, because that's all about good. I'm poor now. I'm 40-year-old. I'm broken. Okay. You guys want to shove some wires in and out and see what causes Joe to go, hey. I'll be like, okay. That's how you get Wi-Fi. You shove that right up in there, and and then you got Wi-Fi.
But you know what's so interesting about that, and that's like we're all over the place. So good luck editing this. But I'm part of a National Security Commission on Emerging Biotech for the Senate. And the fact that you're talking about that's partly what we looked at was, how do we do better with biotech and the merger of biotech, digital, kind of, all of the physical, and what a role it can play for the future. And it's pretty exciting. Like, one of the things that, like, random thoughts that just went through my head, given your background, what if you could store blood at room temperature? What would that mean in terms of the job, and the ability to save lives and all of that? What if it were just, concentrate that you could add, water to, or something like that? I mean, that's the sort of stuff that we think there's so huge promise in.
Yeah, but
Right.
here's the worst part is listeners, if you don't understand how important that the keyword room temperature, okay? If you can add anticoagulant, a preservative, we used to do it in the lab, EDTA, right, for lab samples. And if you can do that, I saw it in effect, right, in Iraq where we did walking blood banks. That's not the best model. Let me just tell you, it's not the best. It's not the best model to get blood units when you need it. But when you only have 6 units, okay, in a tiny reefer amol box, that's literally for like, honestly, it's for those guys that are doing special stuff, not guys like me and the rest of the dudes, right? We're the guys that are like, oh, he died? Yeah, he died. Okay, I'm alive still. I got a little bit left. I know you got a little bit in there. Just give me a little bit. No, we're gonna get everybody in the base. We got you. We used to do 25 units like that. We did on one guy. I remember 25 units went to this gentleman. So when you say that, it hit me very hard because I believe profoundly in the evolution of medicine, technology, biotechnology, the integration of not just services. Like one of my great buddies, we were just talking about his trip to Germany, talking to the prime people out there. And it's super cool because he does all these huge like developmental projects. And here I am just picking his brain. He goes, Joey, yeah, you won't believe what's coming around next. I'm like, I won't, but I'll try it. I'll try to believe it. And have solutions come out of your mouth right now that are so important to me. Admiral Faison and I were talking about this last year. Okay, he was the health department person, or surgeon general, and he was my admiral. And back in really cool guy. We were talking about this very important stuff, developmental medicine for the next war. And people want to avoid that talk. And I'm like, hey, you can avoid a fight as much as you want, but if you're not prepared for it, you're really going to get your asses handed to you. Like, and that's what happens. And so just to know that there's people thinking of these things, God, I'd love to throw my hat into it because I literally created an entire medical laboratory in NFL Central from the ground up. And you're talking about the first offs, the first, things getting accepted right away. I got it CAP certified, JCO, MedIG, all the regulatory agencies certified. First time. Okay. I got
You're my hero.
Thank you. I felt so excited about that because we literally just shared one of those mutual technical stories where we get excited about things working out. It's like, what do you guys mean? It's like, hold on. They don't get it. But do you know how the internet works? Well, not really. Okay, God, what are we even talking about, little guy? That's so awesome. So
But get that certified. I mean, that's so that your crowd understands. Like getting something certified for the first time in anything, let alone in a medical environment, is amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we used to avoid human subject testing unless we really had to do it, just because it was so hard just to get the experiment approved.
Oh yeah,
for good reasons, right?
Yeah, you say it, but I agree to disagree. I worked in research and development for some time. A bit more about myself. Why not? We worked in the Department of Animal Research, CID, and the this, that, and that acronyms. And these are departments, and these other war departments, and they're really cool guys, right? When I was working there, one of the things that we talked about constantly was medical procedure and protocol, because everybody thinks it's like a chaos. It's like a butcher fest. I'm like, no, we treat these things exactly like how we would expect to treat the humans, because this is real training. These are real lives. And now you get the actuality of the consequences of performing poor. I'm not against moulage, okay? I'm not a sadist, not a masochist, not a crazy person, not blood ritual sacrifices. Don't let the name fool you, okay? I had a lot of letters about that. But it's literally the ability to understand your circumstances. If you can't get this right, you shouldn't be doing this, right? That's something that I learned firsthand. You got to deal with those moments, it's kind of tough, right, kid? You're going to live with those for the rest of your life. But you get to do it in a way where you get to push things forward. Like when you brought that, I don't want to use the word triggered, but when you brought up the blood work lab or the potential bio applications, I'm like, dude, room temperature would be, nobody's talking about that. You're right.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about it.
Yeah. And it would just change fundamentally how we think about going to war. right? Just the logistics, the whole thing. And I just want to pick up on one other thing because you triggered. This is a fun conversation, by the way.
It's so much fun.
Because when you think about what a doctor does to plan an operation, that's why the military talks about military operations. There's just as much forethought, and of course, just like when the doctor's doing his thing and it doesn't look exactly like the textbook, because it never does, right? That's exactly what happens in a military operation. And so you actually plan for, here's all the things that could go wrong that we could encounter, right? And I don't think people recognize, like, if they're in military operations, they don't think about that for the medical profession. The medical profession doesn't think about it for military operations, but there's a reason the military chose operations to describe what they do. And it is the same kind of level of complexity with lots of independent actors, right?
Exactly. But you hit it right, the nail right on the head. This combination between military and medicine. This is the reason why I love the Navy corpsmen so much, because we're such a unique group of identity characters where
Yes.
guys. So we get attached to everything. We do everything. We go everywhere. And depending on what secondary schools you go to, you can end up in places where people will be like, "You did what?" It's like, "Oh no, I did vital signs. That's it. I swear. I didn't do nothing else." And they'll leave you alone. But like in the meantime, it's like, no, there's so many complicated things, medical operations, military operations. So when somebody like yourself with just an absolutely gorgeous mind makes so much sense to a person like me, when you go, hey, medical people don't think like military people, and military people, they don't think like medical people. But if you get the people that, that diagram, that one,
Yeah.
I don't even know what it's called, but the one where then diagram, there we go. There we go.
Geek. Yeah.
Venn diagram. When you geek that in the center, right? It's perfect. It's really when you
amazing things happen.
Yeah. So beautiful.
I think actually that's one of America's superpowers, is that two people like us can have this conversation with no prep and find all of these places where we can intersect in ways that are really, really fascinating, right? And that doesn't happen
at all.
No, in other places in the world, it really doesn't.
Not at all.
That's my experience. Yeah.
I think that's the fear that people, well, I think that's the ignorance that people have. Okay. It's that blissful ignorance. I tell my children about it and my wife about it all the time. Everybody lives in a bubble. I love the fact that they live in the bubble, because if they weren't living in the bubble, that means I'm not doing my job. Okay. And if I'm not doing my job as a father or as a husband, as a man, then what am I doing? Come on, hey, let's make sure everybody, stays safe and communicates, because that's the most important thing I think the United States has going for itself, which is we can have these kind of conversations where people do hear it and go, holy cow, hey, room temperature blood. How come? Guys, come on. We spent trillions of dollars at this thing. We still had room temperature blood. That's going to be my new thing. Instead of a hoverboard, I'm gonna be like, it's 2025. We don't even have room temperature blood. Guys, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah, we might not get there in 2026, but it's being worked on, right?
That's right.
And that's important.
2026. Shit. Wow.
Yeah, I know.
It is important. That is so awesome, though, because when you bring up these technological advancements and you literally lived through these amazing ages of eras, or just generations of warfare, intersecting with technology, right? Not in a condescending way. I think this is the most amazing the pathway to a career, that where you start out, here you are on the piano going, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then boom, here you are doing this. And it's just like revolutionary to what people don't even know what they use, like a resistor, right? I was talking literally this morning, geeking, right, about amplifiers and resistors and the way you can get tube amps to perform this way, and you get a corresponding monitor to do this, and you have a vibrational sequence, right, of frequency. And I dig that. Okay, I dig it so much. Like I tell my kids all the time about bandwidths, like how the visual bandwidth is like a hair of what's out there. And then audio, I love it. 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, bud. Anything else, you're not hearing it. Maybe some elephants will, but but I don't think dolphins. Yeah, we do clicks for dolphins and stuff. I can confirm that. There's some stuff going on there with communication. But what I can say is, most likely than not, people don't even think of this stuff. Like to go, hey, how does this phone work? How does this iPad work? How am I able to talk to Don over the internet and then have like a hopefully StreamYard? I'm gonna call you out if it doesn't work because I've already paid. A 1080p image of us, right, talking with some flawless audio, like you advertise, okay, StreamYard.
Get them.
I know they don't sponsor me. You're taking money from a broke veteran, Illinois. I love that.
Yeah. Well, and I also think, I mean, like our heads go, kind of all different directions here. But what you made me think of is one of the things I used to do is challenge my team when you started talking about bandwidth and frequencies. It's like, hey, those are shortcuts for our minds, right? There's nothing in the spectrum that says I'm going to be IR today, or I'm going to be visible, or I'm going to be, low frequency or whatever. Those are all shortcuts that we use in order to communicate with each other. Right. And so I would challenge them to say, is there something that we're doing in like the visible spectrum that we could cross apply to infrared, right? That we could use the same algorithmic approaches or the same transmittal approaches, right? Because that's very often our shortcuts become our blind spots. And so one of the things that the agency does to kind of wrap back to that a little bit is operate in those seams where people go, well, that's not how that works, right? Because of a shortcut that we created, not because that's actually how the physics works. And that's very often, and that's one of my director friends is a magician. And we talk about that a lot, is it's we're not doing anything that's physically impossible. What we're taking advantage of is where people think it can't be done because that's some sort of human shortcut that we've attributed that is not actually supported by the physics. It's really interesting.
It really is. The first person I think of was Harry Houdini, and I'm like, yeah, he was a great magician. And when you think about technology and magic, right, it's usually we don't understand the thingy we're seeing, right? And there's something, going on, and I love it because in practical use, when you have an infant, right, and they're crying and crying, and you got to blood draw them, right, and you blow a balloon, and you shake it in front, and they go, "What? Bloop, 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 bloop. All right, here you go." They don't even know about the needle that just went in and out real quick. So it's really kind of a profound talking point on how actuality works. One of the leading gentlemen I'd love to get a hold of is that Palmer Luckey gentleman with the Anvil. Really intriguing stuff, right? And the simplicity of the application of developmental logistics supply and scalability. That's what impressed me more than anything. And, everybody talks about these people and this stuff that goes on and the beautiful work that you've done in just this profound way. But I go, people don't look at it the way you just explained it, right? You can do it, you can understand it, but you have to start working in that middle area where it's usually not paid attention to, that path less traveled. And you have to be aware and observant of the technical parameters of physics, right? And then challenge them.
Right. Well, you see it in so many places, particularly right now, like, for a long time, only governments could figure out a way to cost effectively get to space. And one could argue that it wasn't very cost effective right away, right? But only they had enough cash to get there.
When you have enough cash,
and Elon said, hold my beer, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many of those now that, like, the internet, right, was ARPANET because only the government could put the money in. And I think that, again, what it is challenging those closely held assumptions, human assumptions, and figuring out if that's actually physics or if that's just that's not how we do things, right? And very often that's not how we do things. It's not physics at all.
I love that. I love that you said that so eloquently because, I'm not the smartest or sharpest tool in the shed. I don't know if you could tell. I like dressing weird, right?
Not true.
I still don't have a degree. I went to lots of school, don't got a degree. My wife goes, "Well, when are you going to do that?" I'm like, when it makes sense, right? When you bring that up the way that you have, I find that to be so perfectly stated is because what you are going through life basing on assumptions. A lot of us are and are doing, and we blame, familiar cycles, right? Whether it be generational, whether it be literal familiar, or whether it be the governmental, political. And I think right now is a pretty interesting time, um, just speaking, right? Literally speaking to people in the space of not just intelligence, because that's one aspect of life and formation of what direction are we going and what trajectory are we taking this, but in the application of our investments. One of the most profound things I would say California could do, hopefully Gavin Newsom's listening like he usually does, if you would build up water infrastructure better in the state of California, you wouldn't have these problems of droughts so much. So imagine we have technologies to do this. Bringing up Elon Musk again with the boring company, it's literally his goal is to funnel or tunnel in throughout Mars and create micro cities and macro cities. Oh, that's cool. No, thank you. We're doing horrible here. What do you think it's going to be like there? Okay. But it's an amazing opportunity for people to go, well, how do we then take these solutions, right? Take these type of thoughts where you clearly had to do this with a very large, I want to say, a very large responsibility on your shoulders ever since a young lady, where you're like, hey, here's something I got to challenge it. I got to rise to the challenge, and I got to make this new cutting edge technology be performative, because at the end of the day, let's not be foolish. Lives are online, whether it be something that's being implemented through the military, like you discussed with was it Abraham Lincoln?
Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
Remembered stuff. And or technology that was then leveraged into communicating person to person, where we now, telephone lines. I was just telling my son about this, about talking on the phone with girls for like 3-4 hours at a time. How you doing? You just saw them. You were at school together. What are you doing? What do you mean? What am I doing? What do you? How was your day at school? You know how my day was. We're there, and it's just like nowadays I see them doing that with like video call, and they're going over to just audio now. And my son's watching audio only podcasts, and I'm like, okay, hey, what is this? What are you watching? And then he goes, oh, it's The Wave. It's a really great podcast. Yeah, they talk about technology and all this cool stuff. I'm like, all right, bro. All right, your dad talks about technology and stuff too, huh? Yeah, Dad, I know. Okay, you just don't listen to it though, huh? Nah. All right, thanks, bud. It's a shot of confidence for your papa.
It's a prophet is without honor saving their own country, or whatever that great quote is, right?
There's just
they figure it out eventually. My kids are older than yours. Eventually, that it's like, oh, that was cool, Mom. I didn't think about it at the time, but
I love that you brought that up, because in the environment that you establish yourself in, creating a family, right, and taking the family from one place to another, or having the priority of raising the family, what was that experience like for your family and yourself?
We had our moments. We had our laughing our heads off. And we had our really, really low moments where it was like, are we going to collectively survive this? I was a single mom for much of my boys' childhood, and had a great cousin nanny that lived with us that kept me from going completely crazy. It was I guess the thing that I learned to do was be fully present in whatever I was doing. So whatever time that I had, and I know that maybe is like, no, you got to put the time into. Yes, I agree with that. But I also, the distractions, like if you're thinking about work when you're building Legos with the kids or whatever, right? And they have to talk to you like 3 times, like I viewed that as like anything they wanted to tell me were gifts. And I had to be totally present and read what was going on and see, especially for boys, I'll say, like if they can cop out with a yes or a no as they get older, that's what they're going to do. Right. So actually to figure out how they were doing, particularly as they were going through puberty and were, young men in junior high, late junior high, early high school, those are such important times. And just to be fully present in those conversations. And I had lots of friends that put time in with us, mostly around foosball tables and pizza. But it was great. My boys thought when we moved from the West Coast to the East Coast, when I took the job back here in DC, they thought that I knew everybody in the neighborhood. It was all my friends from JPL that were still showing up just to hang out and have pizza with my guys. So thank you for all of you that did that. But yeah, they are great. Sorry, I'm going to get emotional. They are great young men with great families, and that was a group of us. And there were times when I thought I was just terrible at it. And it was like, I got to just be here. The important thing is to be here and be fully present. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, stay on it. That's the best. That's literally the best reply. Anybody that has literally created the most, I would say, the most profound technologies in the world that have brought it not to service members, but families, to know that you are supported and receive that and observe it and are aware and being present with your children. It's the most profound thing I think a mother could say as testimony to those times, to where it was like, hey dog, I don't got all the answers. We're just trying to make it. All right. Like, come on, quit messing around. Gotta hustle. It's and kids, they go through it because, again, back to that bubble at the time, we want to nurture them and we want to protect them. We want to create a world where they see viable opportunities and aren't shut off from not risks at all, but the risks that aren't necessary, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you bring up your gentlemen, your young men. Do they have children too, or your
They
grand?
do.
Oh my God.
Yes. And that's the best job ever. I got to tell you that. Best job ever is to be grandma.
I bet it's 1,000% easier because all you got to do is whatever you didn't want to do with the kids, and you're just like, all right, guys, candy and soda pop all day long. Let's go.
That's right. You don't have to decide what right left is, and like what I tell the kids, whatever your rules are, I'm all in. And then, when you're not here, grandma's going to do, grandma gets to make those calls, and I won't abuse them. But if we watch a little Snoopy video, that's okay.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, I think that's such a refreshing perspective, right? Because so many times people have these conversations with, people like yourself that have just tremendous achievements, but they don't eliminate the truth of what it meant to serve and sacrifice. Because those hard moments that flare up when we speak about these times, it is difficult to compartmentalize because how raw the emotions are. And every time we revisit them, it's a powerful weight to lift. So I'm just so grateful that you were able to share that, because I find it to be a goal of mine, right? Reading the Bible last night and just talking about serving God and living that long life. And I'm like, long. Dude, have you seen the mileage on this guy? Like, it's not good.
Pick on something that you said, and you said it accidentally, but I think it was also Freudian because it's where you are. And I think it's fabulous. Is the other thing that I learned through all of that is that grace starts with me. And if I don't have grace overflowing, I can't extend it to others. And I think particularly when I speak to women's groups, I talk about this a lot because women eat women. And they're really hard on each other, right? It's the crab pot. We don't want you to get out of that pot. We're going to pull you back in. And it's like, whatever you do, it's not enough, right? And through that period of time, I learned that I have to extend grace, and that if the laundry doesn't get all folded before I go to bed, and this is a trivial example, right? But I used to beat myself up, and it's like, you got to let yourself off the hook on that stuff. And to your point, I want to provide a safe harbor, but that's different than providing a perfect harbor, because life comes at you, right? And I think the kids watching me go through those periods, right, in terms of grace, where they knew it was grace that got us through, and that was it, then manifested in their lives, but also in those times when I was fully present, then I had grace to extend to them too. So I think it's one of those things that just flows out. But you got to give yourself permission to get the grace to start with. And I think that's that was probably the most profound thing I learned through being a single mom.
That is so profound and powerful, right? Because you're saying give yourself permission, but I didn't even think about doing that, right? I don't think a lot of people even go like, well, let me give myself permission to relax today, right? Yesterday was a bit rough. Let me go ahead and relax today with a lovely conversation with Dawn. Okay. And that oh my God, it is. This is my therapy. All right.
Yeah,
I'm
me
telling all
too.
my
Well, and
listeners. Go
yeah, can
ahead.
I tell one story? Just and
Absolutely.
because I'm a storyteller, sorry, but there were moments in that time too where I saw the grace, right? So one of the things I did was I enabled the J2, the Intel weenies at CENTCOM or Desert Storm 2. I gave them operational capability that we did a deal, right? I wasn't supposed to. I had money for the J3 for ops, but I wasn't supposed to help the Intel people because that was the wrong color of money. So it's so old now. Hopefully Congress won't come get me. But in return, the J2 at the time, the chief intel said, I'll get you access to some of the data sets, right? So that we can integrate them. So that was a great trade. Anyway, so I went down to see how they were doing because I like talking to people, as you can tell. And he says, hey, I want my major here over here to tell you what happened this morning. And the young major was working with special ops, one of the gunship squadrons that was deployed. And they noticed that there was the signature for an air to surface, or sorry, surface to air unit in the past that they were supposed to fly through to get into Afghanistan. And so they had waved them off and given them different routing. What he didn't know was that my brother was the commanding officer on the ground for that air squadron. And so either he was in the air that day or his team was in the air that day. And they did it because of the capability that I was able to give them. And that was grace that was revealed to me. And that kept me going for literally for years. So that grace is so important, and you get it when you need it if you're open to it. Okay.
No, thank you. Oh my,
Pull it
you're gonna
together.
make me cry. I am the softest of hard-looking dudes, okay? Like everybody goes, they walk up to me and be like, "Oh my God, that guy's scary." I'm like, "Hey, you need a hug, partner?" It's like, let me smell some pepper or something.
Yeah, really.
No, that ain't
Anyway.
beautiful. That's beautiful. Let's sit in that, because what you're bringing up is something so profoundly personal, right? That your ability to bring something into the world that matters and matters the most at that moment in time, and by the grace of everything all coming together in that moment,
Yeah.
whether it be strategy, whether it be this, energy, manifestation, God, let's be honest, okay? It's profound, right? That you're able to step into this life and never know what you're going to do means something to somebody. And
Right.
sometimes we do get to see the outcome, right?
The curtain comes open just a little and you go, holy cow, that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. That's the powerful thing I love talking about, because lately my life has been a lot of the, hey, let's figure out what this negative energy is about to turn into gold or something, because I'm getting a whole lot of it. Oh my God, if I could make a conductor out of, or a chip out of this stuff, people would be like, Joey, let's buy out of you. I'm like, okay, you didn't have to go to Venezuela. I'll give you all of this, what I got. And to me, it's powerful because I do believe firmly in God, right? The higher power, the highest power. And it's one of those scary times where things culminate in a weird way, just like you were talking, about your personal experience with your brother and this team that's out doing these critical missions that nobody really knows about, right? I like talking about the work, but I don't talk about the work because I go, it's not supposed to be talked about, right? But because of people's shallow thinking, not because we couldn't do it, but just like the time, like when I learned about pigs. Okay, there we go. Okay. I had a farm pigs for United States Army and the Navy. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm literally raising pigs in a controlled lab situation, and it was beautiful, great experience. We worked on a lot of different things. I was privy to a lot of great technical knowledge in advanced medicine, and I get a phone call from my grandfather, and he's saying, "Hey, Mijo, I guess this is it. Like, I'm going to see the upper room," right? And I'm like, "Okay, like, why? What's going on?" because the doctors say I have a flutter valve or a flappy valve, and it's a misfiring in this and that and all that junk. And I'm like, hey, have you ever heard of humanization or humanizing pig valves or hearts?
Yeah.
Like literally, it's really cool. And he was like, what? I'm like, yeah, they just wash it out, essentially replace the valve with the pig heart valve, and it's literally amazing, and it works a lot of the time. And he goes, Mijo, I don't know, I'm scared. I'm like, of course you're scared, Grandpa. You're a Mexican. You don't say scared, you say is scared. So when you remember that it's okay to take care of yourself, right? My grandpa is still around. So in case
Well, that's
anybody's wondering,
awesome.
yeah, he really took that advice and he took the surgery and he recovered just marvelously. He's still around. He's in his upper 80s, I want to say.
That's
Still
amazing.
just annoying the shit out of my tia. Just she can't. He was like, hey, can you come get him? I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that.
Good for him. I want to meet him. I love it.
He's an amazing man. And you know what? He's got this just the literal heart of gold, the way that I like to tell that story is because if it wasn't for that conversation, right? I don't know if he would have made that decision.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
makes such an impact about trajectory of life that we don't know, right? And in your situation, it's even more remarkable. I didn't create the technology. You did. You're like, hey, I actually hooked them. I did the wiring job. It's like an audio engineer's like dream job where you're like, hey, man, I pulled those wires from there and I got static clean power. We got gold plated plugs. We got all this conditioning on our amplifiers. We got all these technical it's direct electricity instead of the other one, the alternating current, because DC is better for audio, everybody. And if you don't know that, you need to learn something. And then all these different things that come together and create these gifts of life, right? These teams of people at JLP that were able to come into your life and support you in your transition back to DC. Your brother literally directly benefit from this thing that you were involved in. And then today we're talking on the internets. It's like, hey guys, I don't know if you know this, but Don had a lot to do with that. Some way, shape,
I was a small cog in a big wheel, but I got to work with amazing people my entire career. So
that's amazing. Back to the career a bit, right? When you were transitioning out, right, of service, so to speak, whether it be, industrial or technical or corporate or service, what was that transition like to finding your new place of life?
that's a great question. Every single one of my jobs, and I changed jobs a lot since you looked at my resume, was somebody reached out to me. And so deciding to retire from federal service when I had the best job. I mean, I got to talk to Jeff Bezos about, like, we agreed I had a better job, and then we laughed about whose retirement benefits were better. But then, that was a big step. But a couple of things. One is I had been in the job for 7 years. And we had gone through administration changes that were disruptive. There was racial unrest. It was COVID. And we had done the first reorganization of the organization in 57 years. Oh, so wow. I was exhausted. And so I thought, what it takes to be in a role like that, you got to bring your A game every day. And I was also big on that. And I got to bring that grace every day, right? Because whatever the front office is feeling, that permeates the organization, right? And I got to the point where I was just like, I'm not sure I can wump it up, right? I'm not sure I have the energy. I'm not sure I have the, staying power. And I had a fabulous deputy. So all of those things combined together. And then the new director came in, Bill Burns, amazing guy. And he said, hey, I want you to step out of your role and run this tech study for me. And I said, I'll do you one better. I'll step out of my role. I'll run the tech study for you. And then I'm going to retire, because that way nobody will think that I'm trying to create my next job. And we went back and forth. Like I said, that was ugly. I didn't, that wasn't what I wanted. I said, I know, but you hit me at exactly the right time. So I'll just say that transition was a little scary because it was the first time I wasn't going to something. I was just leaving. Right. And what I'll say is, because of the grace that we talked about, I was like, whatever it is I'm supposed to do next, it'll be made evident. Right. And maybe it's just like loving on my grandkids, which would be awesome, right? And then all of these other things, this commission that I talked about, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, kind of advising them. I'm on a couple of boards. I do a lot of non-for-profit. I still work with my community a lot on a no-fee basis. So as my husband says, I'm failing retirement. And so my cup is full and overflowing again. And I am so grateful. And it was no plan of mine.
That's so amazing, right? Because you're hitting on all the great cue points of a successful transition with clear bumps, right? And it's where you have to stand your ground and you have to know what the best mutual interests are. Because let's be honest, service is synergy. And if it's not synergy, it's not service. It's kind of oppressive. It could be possessive. It's that toxic ex I was telling you about, right? We're just like, where'd he go? Jeez. Like crab trap much, right? Yeah. Well, it's that phase of life that's anew. And I'm so glad that you said it that way. It will make itself evident. That is one of the best things I think anybody on the show has said, either purposefully, accidentally, or completely like narrative. And we got 1,000 billion hours, pitched into this, guys, and we've been working on it for 15 years together, and we finally got you tricked. No, but the reality is, if you do something with your passion, whether it be now, like with not-for-profits, nonprofits, or no fee services, stuff like that, it shows you that the work continues, right? So as that I don't want to say culture ends, because leaving a community is difficult. I have a lot of conversations with a lot of gentlemen and ladies from the military where they don't know what to do. Their identity is shifted, and they had a routine, they had a consistency, and they developed their core characteristics around these habits, so to speak. And their psychology is now interrupted by whether a necessity to move on and find something new, or sometimes in some cases it's a medical reason why you can't continue service, which is always difficult either way, when it's finally time to go or when you get told, hey, you gotta go. I find that powerful, because now what you're doing to the community is providing not just key resources of technological advancement, career orientation, grace, that Christ love, right? Where I'm like, hey guys, like, I didn't know this about Dawn, but today I learned a lot, like, about the piano and everything. And one of the most powerful things is when it's our time, you must seek it, and it must make itself evident. We can hammer it down. We can always hit things with a hammer, but if that thing keeps popping up and you're like, hey, okay, why does that keep popping up? All right. Like, you brought up the women's group. I just had a great conversation with Joey Bates. He does a Christian group out in Kentucky, and a men's group. So it's amazing. Like, literally yesterday was men's group, today is women's group. And I'm like, yes, I love it all, because it's a powerful sense of community that says you can do it. Look at me. I'm not perfect. We can definitely have progress in little ways, and those little wins can stack up in a big way. And we don't know all the time how that's going to, reveal itself, or make itself evident, or be presented. But it's that courage and faith to step boldly, right? And I actually took a little step there. That's why I'm doing that, right? To step, thank you. And to step boldly in a way where the fears of, or anxieties of failure, which is human to intelligent people, I think, put more barriers in front of themselves than not, because the consequences. And it's like, ooh, I definitely don't want that. Like skydiving, right? Oh, I know too many people that skydive, and they go, hey, you used to do it. I'm like, I used to did it, but I don't do it. Okay. Like, that's not my thing. My kids, like, could you imagine? Come on. I've seen it happen where you just bounce off the ground and you're just like a human soup, and you just get kind of sloughed into a bag. It's not a fun day. But when I grew up away from that identity of trying to do the most, which cost me a lot of my body, right? Which was fine. It's part of the gig. But the mindset turned into, how do I then create something much like yourself that is beneficial to the whole of humanity? Where can I find myself within that sense of passion, that sense of belonging? and that sense of power, of self-control, that grace, like you said so eloquently, because
Yeah,
it is a grace. It's a
it
gift
is.
from something more than, because if
Yes.
we were to just take our experiences, me and you both be here crying still, right? And I'd be
Yeah.
like, oh my God, you couldn't believe it. Oh my God, last night was rough. But the problem isn't last night. The problem is, what do I do with the energy now?
Yeah.
Right? How do I pivot away from such a negative situation or circumstance? And then how do I turn that? I got to say it because my coach, Kent Olson, used to say this to me all the time. Okay. How do I turn this chicken shit into chicken salad? All right.
I like it. I keep chickens, so that's very apt. I
There you go. Look, hey, look, most people that retire, I know, okay, that's like literally the first thing people are you gonna get chickens? I'm like, my wife won't let me. They used to chase her around when she was a kid in Mexico. She's scared of them. She went, what about horses? No horses. A horse literally bit her when she was a kid and
Oh
throw her to
no.
get her. That donkey. No, when she was a kid, she was what were you doing? Working at a farm? Like
That's funny.
yeah,
So
I love
chicken
animals.
salad, yeah. I love
Chicken salad.
salad.
You gotta make
Yeah.
it chicken
Yeah.
salad. You gotta
And I think you hit on it. Just being open, right? Like if I'm left to my own devices, all my human, your point, right? You put everything in front of it. My point of like we put ourselves in boxes. And so some of the things that I'm doing now, like being on this commission, that would have never shown up on my checklist of things, I aspire to do. But it's turned out to be one of the most fascinating things that I've done since I retired. And I've gotten to meet amazing people and all these, I'm not a biologist, right? The room temperature blood. I've learned so much by hanging out with these people that are very, very different from me. But I was open to there was a little arm twisting there by the senator that nominated me because we had worked together. But frankly, I thought, oh, the legislative branch, do they get things done? I actually said that to him. Like, I don't know. I only have so much time left. I want to do some things that actually move the needle. And he was like, no, 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 Don, this is going to be different. Right? It's like, okay. So, and he was right. He was right. So,
That's
to your point, right?
yeah. No, that's perfect to hear because one, I love your testicular, oh no, ovarian fortitude. Okay. It's like, dude, you literally told a senator, like, hey, dog, are you just wasting my time with this? Like, show up, man. What do you got? And he's like, no, I promise. Typical salesman. No, I promise it's going to be different. That's what you said 34 times before this. And I love that energy because in the veteran community, there is so many ample opportunities to integrate, much like biotechnologies, right?
Yeah.
AI assisted technologies.
Yeah.
There's so much different implementation of organizational progress there. I reached out to a lot of great people and I've talked to a lot of amazing people the past 13 years. Sure. I was like, oh, no, it's been 13. And the progress that I see in a lot of different avenues are being hindered by that compartmentalization that we don't want to take the risks of putting ourselves into a room where we may know less than the other and then get raised to that level of understanding. And I think it's amazing, like a leader like yourself, right? Into a commission, having the work history that you have, being the grandmother and mother that you are, there's this profound sense of faith in being able to succeed in accomplishment, right? Where it doesn't come, I've never heard of anybody going, yeah, I woke up that way. No. You got to build that muscle. And so
Yeah.
hearing that there are progresses being made, it's just profoundly important for a gentleman like
Yeah.
myself, our listeners. I lived it where we minimized in Al Qaeda Iraq in '06, right? We went from you might get help within an hour, maybe, right? Depending on where you're at. And if you're in Al
Yeah.
Qaim or Al Anbar, that ain't gonna happen, bud.
Yeah.
So we went from an hour, 45 minutes to an hour to less than 30 minutes. Okay. If you're in our AO, our dust off team, they were so polished by the time we instituted our systems and our communications, our layers of improvement. By the time we were actually operating at full speed, it was like faster than dominoes. And
Yeah.
you could have been blown up 5.10 minutes ago. Okay. And now you have a QRF. Now you have a fast response team. Here you got the hell, what are they called? The Angels? Fuck, I can't remember what they call them. Dust off. We just call them dust off. And you have the flight medics, you have the flight nurses, you have all these surgeons where I was at, where we were just literally like putting things in place. Like, you got that? I'm like, I guess. Is it working? Yep. All right. And that technology goes from theory, right?
Yeah.
To application. And
Yep.
I'm so gosh darn, I got a lot of words to say. Motivated, inspired is one of them, because it's something that I've dedicated my life to entirely, right?
But
Going,
you saw it and lived it, right? That
yes,
is not the innovations you did just because it's like, hey, this guy's going to die if we don't do something. So nothing to lose here. Let's go for it, right?
yes.
How
But
many times did that work, right? And times it didn't. I get it, right? But that's like, I think the military and that environment is so good to grow these muscles that you just talked about, right? And I feel so fortunate that I got to be with your kind of people who also were very clear when I did something stupid, by the way. And they needed to be. Right?
yeah.
That's why I would go see them, because they would say, Don, yeah, we lost that 2 seconds after we got off the helicopter. Like, okay, that's all I needed to know. Got it,
Yeah.
right?
I love
But
that
they
you bring it
also
up
were
that
like,
way.
when it was good, they were like crazy. It was like, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? Right? I mean, it was like, so you lived that. You did it.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a time, and we're 20 years later. Dying. This is a whoa moment. 'Cause 20 years later, at this moment in time, I was ripping, doing training and all this other stuff in and out of that places. Wow, that kind of hit me hard there. 20 years. And you're
Yeah.
right. We actually do the work, we do the job, and there's these opportunities. Like with people like yourself, there's people they're into these technological advancements. There's these corporations that are good and they're trying their best. But I still go back to this non-clear line of communication. It's like we have all the technology, but there seems to be an interpersonal
Mm.
problem. It's a non-software, non-hardware. It's like this interface issue, right? In audio engineering, I learned about interfaces. Okay. And if you don't have an interface, you can't communicate. If you have the wrong interface for the wrong device, you can't communicate. If you're trying to send a low frequency over a telephone, it won't be heard because there's a bandwidth within that telephone receiver and in the whole line of communication before it goes pinging there or through this thing there. And those frequencies don't correspond. They just don't pick up. Human beings are just like that. There's a billion,
Yes.
there's a
Yes.
there's 8 billion of us, believe it or not. And we're thinking that it'd be better to fly off to Mars and things that we wouldn't even be able to bring, I don't even know, a cup of water. All right, let's be honest. The whole engineering behind these lofty constructs, I'm all about, right? But let's turn around and make sure we're making effect. Like those gentlemen that would abruptly tell you, hey, it was the best thing in theory. As soon as we started getting punched in the face, though, it
Yep. We lost it, Don. We don't know where it went. Okay.
yeah,
I know exactly where it went. It's okay. That
it's a
tells me all I need to know.
combat loss. Okay, we're just gonna
That's
chuck it down,
right.
file the paperwork. Okay, Don, we got you. It actually caught on fire.
Never seen anything like it.
Spontaneously erupted like my Aunt Susan. It's full.
Oh man. Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
But
to your point, right? That's again, this is back to America's superpower. When we can figure out how to get through that. I'll tell you another story. So I work with a bunch of venture capital firms, in terms of like either referring entrepreneurs or helping them assess. What I discovered is if I don't get to talk to the entrepreneurs, I'm worthless. I can assess the technology, not good enough. I want to have this conversation like we're having. That'll tell me more about whether or not the company's going to make it. Now, if they're trying to do cold room fusion, then there's technology. If it's not laws of physics, then okay, that's a clear discriminator. But there's so much good tech out there and so many good ideas. I want to talk to you because I'll be able to tell whether or not you're going to carry this thing. And when they don't let me do that, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me, because it really is, at the end of the day, it's about the people.
This is like one of the most refreshing conversations I've had in my whole life. Okay, like,
Oh, this is fun. I'm having a blast. So
no,
I
but
enjoy.
you even saying that, like the whole mission of what you're doing now, it's like, hey, dog, like what I really want is for people to clearly communicate intention, action, investment, result, and outcome, because that's what you've done your whole life. And I've always been of the part to say, look, it's very hard for people to feel comfortable, to feel safe, to have an open space to go, hey, yeah, I love your idea. Okay, Mr. Billionaire, trillionaire guy. P.S. That's fucking stupid. An application, dog. Like, hey, have you heard of this room temperature blood yet? And they're gonna probably look at you and go, I'm over here trying to go to space, and you're talking about room temperature blood. I'm like, yes, it's kind of important, especially in space, because guess what? A walking blood bank isn't going to be you and 3 other astronauts. Okay, it's not
Right.
going to work. It's just not going to work. If I don't know how you'd get cut open in space. I really hope that never happens. I'm
Yeah.
having the fear-based response of like a whole Interstellar or Alien in my head right now, of this whole, we're taking humanity amongst the stars. Do you really want to do that with these type of people? Like, have you had a conversation with them? Like, I don't know. It sounds pretty difficult. I'm going to stay down here and deal with the bears and stuff. All right, guys, they're very easy to understand. I'm not salmon. They know eat me. Okay, cool. As long as it's not a white bear, if it's a white bear, you're just screwed. So you can't swim away from that guy. You can't find something fast enough.
Yeah, if he's hungry,
Yep.
you just got to be the fastest one in your group, or faster than the slowest one, right?
Or just push the next guy down a little bit. You had a long life, Jim. You're good.
Exactly.
No, my luck, the bear would just hop right over Jim and go, I'm getting that one. He's
He's
big.
looking good, man.
I
Yeah.
love it. So when you have these conversations with these people, and I know it gets intimidating sometimes when I talk to certain people, but it's usually a process that's going on in between my own ears.
Yeah.
How do you find the grace to inform people both of, hey, this is a great idea, or hey, we need to massage this out a bit? How do you
Yeah.
go about that?
So if you talk to anybody that ever worked with me, I ask thousands of questions. I question things, right? And a lot of the time, it feels Machiavellian to say this. A lot of the time I know what the answer is, but what I'm trying to do is pose it in a way that the other person can think it through, in a way maybe they haven't done it in the past, right? So I have never been that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard, right? It's just not like, there are times when I'm thinking it, my inside brain is going like, they don't know what they're talking about, right? What my cognitive part is doing is thinking like, okay, so what question can I ask that will bring them to the next step in, like, where I think their logic has failed them, right? And so, first of all, I learned that I had great mentors throughout my career, and the ones who were the best for me were the ones that made me think things through, right? That just didn't give me the answer, like actually made me go through do the work, right? Because that's how adults learn. We're experiential. We actually have to do our own thinking. We don't just take it, or at least most of us are pretty skeptical. We don't just take it. So I got good at doing that, I think. And then when I went to work for the agency, because it was so late in my career, like, I didn't know anything about biology. That's not my thing. I could talk about like technology sorts of things a lot, but I'd never build an aircraft, right? I'd never put together a space program, right? Sort of thing. And so I had to ask those questions, and it was genuine because I just love to learn how things work. And I had like the smartest people on the planet that could actually explain this stuff to me. And so that was just kind of my brand when I came into the CIA so late in my career, is like, oh yeah, great. Brennan brought you in and you didn't grow up here. You don't think like us. You don't act like us. So I played the, ask a lot of questions. And of course, this, if you ask people about something they love, they are going to spew.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And if you engage with that love, they're going to spew more. And so, like, and people would say to me, how did you learn to debrief? Because that's actually a technique. And I was like, I'm not I'm not trying to debrief. I'm just trying to understand what this really smart person is trying to communicate to me about quantum or whatever the thing was, right? Like, I'm never going to get access to an expert of this caliber anyplace else. So I'm going to pick as much of their brain as I can because they can actually explain it in a way that a reasonably smart person, but not a quantum physicist, can understand it, right? And so my technique is to ask, and that's why I have to deal with the entrepreneurs, because dealing with the other people, they're translating, right? And very often, then what we can do is figure out, like, okay, if it's not a technical problem, then it's like, maybe that's not the market we should go after. Maybe this is the market we should go after, right? Or maybe we move the product or the service a little bit, and it fills a niche that is not filled right now, right? And I think that's the kind of value add. But when I don't, that's what I discovered, is when I don't deal with the entrepreneurs, I can't have those conversations, and I feel like then I'm just, but don't just ask me to check the math. Like, if they're competent mathematicians, they did the math, right? But I want to sense you. I want to figure out what you're about and how open you are to, other ideas, and whether you thought things through completely, because that will tell me more about whether the company's going to make it or not than, just looking at the patent filings.
Right, and the technicalities are always great, but I love the way you're presenting this, is because you're not investing in just the technology, you're investing in the team building and producing and then sharing, creating the mechanisms that the technology is distributed on. And then the impact, right? The long term. Right. One of the most interesting research papers I did back in 2011, it was on CTEs, electronic communication devices, or something like that. Technologies. It's essentially phones, but this was before everybody had a phone this way. And I was predicting the facts of basic statistics and variances that were being shown in populations, right? When you have an advance in technology, you see a dip in productivity, right? And one of the most profound things I realized being retired was, for some reason, everybody that's not retired spends a lot more time on the internet than I do. And I was like, hey, I'm not trying to compete with y'all. Like, I'm just here having fun with a podcast, but how do you have all the time in the world to do what you're doing? And so one of the coolest things that I found out about technologies in that time era was, when we move things or products in certain ways, when we integrate new technologies in certain formats, one of the newer ones was AI, and we have a corresponding reaction by a population, we then have to take into account, what are we doing with it? Because if people are over here just making AI girlfriends and stuff, that's fine. Don't get me wrong, it's lonely out there, guys. Not that lonely, though. Come on. And then you have the opposite, where you got people that are literally creating the next wave of technologies, integration services, communications, LLM products, different types of agents, and corresponding pathways. But the root of the technology is very, very basic. It's kind of like how I go back to nuclear, nuclear engineering or nuclear work of what we use for energy. It's not, oh, the nuclear energy is coming out of a pipe and it's going into your electricity. It's like, no, dog, that's steam. It's just steam. Okay, we could be doing this with coal. We could be doing this. We can do this with human bodies. Don't ask me how I know, but we could. What I'm saying is, when we're this confused on the advancement in technology, the dips correspond to an effect, psychological, physiological, and philosophical. I find it very unique that you come from a place where your career is so distinguished, and your career points, like, if it was a resume, it goes ping, 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 pow. This is awesome. That is awesome. This is awesome. That is awesome. How do you now then find the time for yourself? How do you perform self-care, so to speak?
So actually, I have a fantastic executive assistant, because I found that I'm really terrible at maintaining my own calendar. So she keeps me straight, but I call them Grace and Favor Fridays, where I give myself an extra day for weekends. And she just makes sure that there are there are days where I am chock-a-block, right? It's like I feel like I'm in my old job. I go from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. And there are other days like this morning, she's learned that when I'm doing something like this, I know it's hard to believe I'm an introvert, but I actually have to like hold energy so that when I hit you, I am not being the introvert that I want to be. And so she just learned it like, okay, she's going to do, she's going to have a great conversation this afternoon at noon my time. And so she needs the morning. And so that's I don't know if it's self-care, but she's figured out, and it's the right thing to do. It's like this takes a lot of energy. I will not have any words left after we finish, which is fine. But you just figure that out, and it's that sort of stuff that I can do that. And when people call and ask me to do things, then she just schedules it, and she's learned these kind of how to manage me in a way that keeps us both healthy. And she's terrific. So that's as a retiree, I can say I'm going to take this week off to go take a course, and I just block it out, and nobody needs to know why. She knows. But that I just do things like that, right? So we do find time to travel. We make sure we have time to I'm on a board on the West Coast. I have grandkids out there, so that gives me an excuse to go see the grandkids a couple of days before the board meeting. It's just things like that, right? You learn life hacks, I guess, just like you do.
Yeah. And that's beautiful. The way that you're just so on point, and I'm so jealous about it in a way where I'm like, executive assistants, let me write that down. Let me write that down. All right, let me just talk to people and
No,
say,
this was survival, right? And the funny thing is, again, talk about grace. I have a buddy, and I was, that we were at a board meeting together, and I said, like, how do you manage your calendar? Like, I'm failing this, right? Like, I got things I'm rescheduling, and he's like, hey, I have an EA. She's a military 06's spouse. They have small children. She wants to work part-time when she can, right? And he said, she's terrific. You talk to her. I had never met her until this last Christmas. I worked with her for 3 years, but we had an interview, but it works for her. If she wants to do between 7 and 9 at night, answer emails and things like that, that's up to her. Right. And it's been a life changer for me in terms of, I probably could keep a calendar, but I found out I sucked at it. So, and so she gets to do this for the two of us. That we're the only two people that she works with. And she's another graceful person. And it just gives her, when her husband's deployed, she works fewer hours because he flies one of those big hot jets. Good for him. Yeah. But I mean, again, it's like, so being open, right? Because I wasn't thinking about it. I was just complaining about how bad I was at calendar. He's like, hey, I might know somebody that can help you with this. And it was like, it's been a life changer for the last 3 years. It's unbelievable. So she does great. He does great. I do great. No
That's
downside.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that, because the way you're bringing it up, it's a support team, right? We're
Yes.
effectively making trajectory a possibility by having the appropriate supports. We're affirming, we're communicating our weaknesses, and we're communicating our strengths, and we're taking a strategy to be successful. I love that, because everything we've talked about today, and we'll wrap it up right now, but everything we talked about today was just so amazing personally, coming from the evening I had last night to right now. And it's one of those situations that I love that we're saying this word, the grace of God, grace of Christ, grace of that light, love, that warmth, because it does take that to survive. And if you're not opening yourself up to the potential, like you said, the gentleman, you're like, yeah, I just thought I sucked. And he was like, oh, you do, but hey, there's solutions.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. That's a great, I think, I just love that we've ended up talking about grace so much, because, and honestly, I don't know how people make it without it. I look back on my life, and I think there have been so many points in my life where if grace hadn't been extended, in the form of, direct, or a person, or whatever, I would have probably been, your soup shit show kind of analogy that you use, right? I mean, kind of like this pile of stuff laying on the ground, feeling sorry for myself, right? It's just I cannot overstate people demonstrating grace to me, and Christ's love flowing through others that has turned around my day or made up for the crappy night I had, right? So
That's so
thank you
cute.
so much. Yeah.
Oh,
No,
thank
thank
you.
you.
And I would like to, if you have any shout outs, I want to say last word, we'll have you back on because there's just so much to unpack here. And actually getting to know you, I'm like, there's even more to unpack because one, we didn't really talk about music. I didn't ask you what your favorite song was. I'm kind of an asshole for that, but hey, we can get to it. Any last words for this episode? Shout out, stuff like that you are promoting, maybe an organization, a nonprofit that needs a bit of attention, anything like that.
Oh man, Joey, thank you so much. Thank you, first of all, for reaching out to me. I mean, this has been one of the best conversations I think I've had in years, potentially. So thanks for that. Thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for your service. I think this demonstrates, kind of what grace is all about and how serendipitous life can be if you're open to opportunities. I work with so many nonprofits. I'll just mention one. There's a Defense Memorial Fund. CIA has a fund that I'm a proud sponsor of for fallen officers, and they do great work. But the rest of the intel community also has fallen officers, and they're not as big. They don't get as much fanfare. And the Defense Memorial Fund is really trying to address that fill that same gap for NSA, DIA. NGA, NRO. I shouldn't have started a list because now I'm going to get grief because of the people I didn't mention. But that's one of the ones that I'm an ambassador for. And I think it's just one of those, when you see the impact that we can have on spouses and children for officers who have rendered all on behalf of this nation, it is something that I'm really proud to be associated with and something that I think people should definitely check into because it's a way to, and there are lots of others like this, but because I, spent my last years of career in the intelligence community, it's just the one that I'll single out as something that I'm really proud to be associated with. And that's a lot of unsung heroes that folks don't appreciate or understand exist. So.
No, thank you for sharing that. The Defense Memorial Fund, correct?
Yeah.
Defense
might be Defense Memorial Foundation. Sorry.
Foundation.
I think. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Defense Memorial. We'll just say Defense Memorial, guys. We'll get you all dialed in. I'll put the links. I'll put the stuff.
Oh, thanks.
Everybody will be able to be like, oh, is that the thing he couldn't say right? And I'm like, yeah, I couldn't do it.
No, that's the thing I got wrong, but thank you for clarifying.
No, that's perfect because then I agree with you, right? And I believe tremendously in supporting those who serve, no matter what the technicalities are of those services. And I do find it disgusting that our nation has these start and stop points to these resources and benefits and recognitions, and not just fanfare, but the actual recognition of these sacrifices that have been to our great nation for men like me, for women like you to have these conversations today and to sit back and say, hey, let's do something better. Let's find some solutions. Let's talk about these groups more. Let's invest in these technologies. Let's get these let's start shoving stuff in and out of Joey. He said he's game. I'm like, yeah, I got at least another maybe 3 years in me. I don't know.
I hope it's a lot more than that, Joey.
I don't know. I hope so.
None of us do, right?
Yeah, we don't know, and that's the thing is that's really what motivates me to relax and share. And I'm so graceful and grateful for you sharing as an introvert, right? You're sharing so much that I'm like, thank you, because now I can go to my wife and say, see, she's an introvert. She could do it. You could do it too, right?
I'm sorry. I apologize. That's from your wife.
I know. I'm going to blame you. I'm going to be like, hey, here's exactly the episode. But she did say sorry. Here you go. No, I love my wife so much. She's been my caregiver since 2013. And, that's part of the unsung heroes, that hidden helpers that people don't really talk about. And
for sure.
To know that the intelligent agencies, the one that do the most critical work, so blockheads like me can go do things and help people do stuff. I think it's remarkable. And I think I'm just so profoundly appreciative of your time and your effort and of course, you're sharing in your love and energy and Christ light and all that good stuff, because I really want to continue this on. I really want to share with our audience a lot more about you and what you got going on, and how we can support the Defense Memorial Foundation and all these great technologies that you got going on. Because to me,
Thanks.
community is how we build. That's it. There's no other way around it. I could try, for the rest of my life trying to build something that I'm proud of by myself, and I will always feel bad that I didn't include more on it. So that's kind of the passion that I have, and I hear that from you, and I'm so grateful for our time today. So thank you again.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I'm so glad we got to talk.